This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and today we are bringing you a couple of performers who are part of the Cafe Lena Stay at Home concert. So I want to welcome you. And Lisa, why don't we begin with you? Introduce yourself and your partner and tell us what's going to happen tomorrow night, Sunday, I think it's the 14th
Yes.
at Cafe Lena.
Well, I'm Lisa Meissner. This is Claus Meissner.
Hello.
We are the Rustic Riders is our band name. We are a duo living in Saranac Lake, New York, in the Adirondack Mountains. And we'll be going down, it's about 2 hours north of Cafe Lena. And we love Cafe Lena. We'll go down. A friend of ours turned us on to this idea. We'll go down and spend the whole weekend down there and go to 3 shows because they have shows every night.
Right.
Something's going on, and we'll find a place to stay and just spend the whole weekend down there. It's a great getaway. It's only 2 hours away, but it feels like we're in another world.
Absolutely.
Especially when we were working, that was a really great escape.
Yep.
And so that's who we are. We've been playing music together, out performing since 1996, the last century.
You
And
began writing in.
I began writing my own songs about 2006. Claus made me this beautiful guitar.
Wow. A
Oh.
craftsman.
Well,
Yes.
there's a fellow up here, Dave Nichols, who lives about an hour north of us, who teaches guitar making. And he does these workshops. And he also does the pearl inlay is Dave Nichols' work.
Unbelievable.
Claus was always futzing with my instruments, and it's like, you don't know what you're doing. So I gave him that course as a gift one year. And then he also made 3 other ones, but this one was the big deal one.
Absolutely. So what got the two of you into music? I mean, it sounds like, you didn't start out as little kids in music.
Performing out publicly,
Right.
but my mom was a professional musician, and there was always music in the house.
Mhm. And in my family, the background on one side of the family is Puerto Rican and Cuban, so we always had music. Whenever we had gatherings, it was always dance and music. So family parties were not sitting around, it was dancing around.
I love that. And typically, that's what Cafe Lena is almost like. People will, sway and stand up and, really enjoy the music. Tomorrow night's going to be a little bit different for you.
Very different, especially as folk musicians.
Right.
I write a lot of songs, we perform a lot of songs where people are expected to sing along,
Right.
and we won't have that. So we've modified our set list from what we would normally do, and modified our pattern, how we introduce songs, because usually we're giving instructions of what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
And we've watched a lot of a lot of online concerts, and I don't think that really works sing along at home. People will
Sure.
sing along at home if they want to, but not necessarily. It just feels odd to me. So we won't be doing that.
Well,
But we'll be
the
doing.
the nice thing is that when you're doing it at Cafe Lena, and because it's on YouTube, it gets forwarded to YouTube. They do have somebody there who is watching the YouTube interactions. And that is, for me as a listener, is very helpful
Right,
because if somebody says, "Are you singing?" All of a sudden I find myself singing, or
right,
are you clapping? And so even though you don't get to see that, okay, we are all participating, which I think
right.
is great.
And we're very fortunate that Ian, the sound person there, is a friend of ours, and so is Sarah Craig, the director. So we will have those two people present, so that'll help us with our energy and warm up.
Absolutely. Well, Sarah is terrific. Um, and I believe you're talking about Joe, who will be doing the sound for you.
Now Ian is doing the
Oh,
sound.
Ian is doing the sound for you. Okay.
which
All
is
right.
great for us because we're very comfortable with Ian. So,
Absolutely. Well, I know it's gonna be a great event, and so for those of you who are listening today, if you wanna watch them live tomorrow night, Sunday the 14th at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, you can watch it live. Um, but if you miss it, don't worry about it. Just go to the Cafe Lena YouTube channel, and you can watch them at your leisure.
great.
So
Although we hope people will turn in tomorrow
oh,
too.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, one of the things that I've shared with our listeners, and I think it's really important, performers like yourself for the last couple months have not been able to get out and perform. And a lot of you are sort of dependent on those performances. It's your bread and butter. Um, you don't have these big, huge contracts like uh, a Taylor Swift who can sit back for 3 months if need be. So, we ask our listeners to reach out, get your music, pay for your music,
Mhm.
whenever they find you online and there's a little, tip jar, please, every penny counts. And,
And half of that goes to Cafe Lena, which is very
absolute
important. They're dependent upon ticket sales,
That's right.
yes,
ticket sales. So
absolutely.
really
And if we
important to
want
keep.
them And if we want them around another 60 years, we need to support them as well.
Yes.
Yep.
So give us a little taste. What are you going to be performing tomorrow night?
Well, it'll be a mix of stuff. A lot of local history, Adirondack history songs. Our next CD, which has gotten stalled because of the virus and you can't record. And we've recorded our tracks, but there's a couple extra tracks we wanted on there that still have to be recorded. Although I just heard from Dan Duggan, the fellow we record with, that the fiddler is now feeling comfortable enough to come up to Dan's to record his tracks. So we're getting closer.
Yep.
And but a lot of the songs on the newer album are Adirondack history, and we'll do one today about a neighbor that we had for many years, who was a very interesting man. And um, we'll also do some love songs and a few politically charged social commentary songs.
Tho- And sometimes those are the best, and especially right now for everything that we're going through. It
Right.
helps us think and
That's right.
process. And
We
sometimes,
have a we have a selection today of three different songs if you're interested.
sure,
One is local history, one is a political commentary, and one is about uh, the strong women.
absolutely. Well, let's get started. Let's hear you perform.
Okay. So the first song is called Nothing's Too Hard, and I think, oops, sorry, I think that's what we're going to call the album, is Nothing Too Hard. It's about our neighbor Clarence Petty, who was instrumental in protecting the wilderness. We live in a 6 million acre park. About 3 million of that, roughly half is private and half is state land. But the private is also very regulated to protect the wilderness. And Clarence was very instrumental in that. But when he grew up in Corries, which is halfway between two small towns here, his family first squatted on state land. For the first 6 years of his life, they were illegally living on state land till they bought their house in Corries. And that's where he grew up. He then traveled all around the world, was very involved. He learned to fly a plane, gave up his pilot's license at 95. He lived to 104. He was just a real amazing character and was very involved in the environmental movement. So here's Clarence's song. And it's also about his mother, who insisted they go to school. Back then, you would stop at 8th grade, maybe. And of course, they're living subsistence living. They could have used them out hunting and fishing
And trapping. Yeah.
and trapping. But she made them go to school. They had a 15-mile walk, and I have run that road now. They didn't have a road back then, but I've run that road. It is uphill both ways.
15 miles to school, 15 miles back. Let's play the song.
Okay. Clarence was born in 1905. A century later, he was still alive. As a child lived in a squatter's camp, not far from where he died. In between, he traveled the whole world wide. The land was abused when he was a child. Worked most of his life to keep it wild. When people gave him compliments, he would say, "It's thanks to my mother for making me this way." With confidence and fortitude, nothing's too hard. What's another mile when we've come this far? With patience and vision, we'll see it through. With laughter and hope, do what we must do. Catherine left her family when she was only 10. Fended for herself till Mrs. Cobb took her in. No one knows what happened or why she left. Somehow she made her way to the Adirondacks. At Bartlett Carey, Catherine met her mate. She married Ellsworth in Saranac Lake. Together they raised 3 fine sons. He taught them how to fish and trap and how to shoot a gun. With confidence and fortitude, nothing's too hard. What's another mile when we've come this far? Patience and vision, we'll see it through. With laughter and hope, do what we must do. Catherine taught them to work hard and learn, always to think, take time to discern. But life is crazy and things go wrong. Head to the wilderness to hear a different song. They could have used money, they could have used food, but they would not subsist, they would go to school. They knew the wilderness like the back of their hand. They learned how to fight to save the land. With confidence and fortitude, nothing's too hard. What's another mile when we've come this far? Patience and vision, we'll see it through. With laughter and hope, do what we must do. Do what we must do.
Wow. You know, I grew up, with folk music, growing up in the late 50s, early 60s. And I'll tell you, coming back to Cafe Lena and hearing so much of this makes me just smile from ear to ear. Uh,
Yeah.
and for people like you who, find a subject and then just can make it into this wonderful story for
Well, thank
all
you.
of us
It's
to
such a great
understand.
story.
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to find a way to tell it.
Yeah. Well, you told it very well. So you're playing the guitar, and what's your husband playing over there? We can't see the whole
Snare
thing. Ah, okay.
drum. Yep.
I mean, I
Snare
can
drum,
hear it.
little kicker here.
Got it. So
Yeah.
you're the percussionist.
Boron.
Wonderful.
And we have some other instruments too. I've got a bouzouki and mandolin. My first instrument was cello in elementary school. And I'm not a cellist, I'm a cello player, I like to say, because I'm more of a folk cello. But we have a lot of fun.
You want to do Lost Dog next, or did you want to do?
Everyone's an expert.
Yeah, let's do Everyone's Expert.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
So this is a little commentary on people that speak as if they know something when they really don't.
journalist to tell me what I know. Don't confuse me with the facts, my mind's made up. Everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro. Radio, so much static on the TV. They're so dramatic on the internet. So many fanatics. Everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro. I don't need a scientist to tell me what I know. It's not getting warmer, it's 30 below. Everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro. On the radio, so much static on the TV. They're so dramatic on the internet. So many fanatics. Everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro. I don't need an engineer to tell me what I know. I can drill as deep as I want to go. 'Cause everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro. On the radio, so much static on the TV. The so dramatic on the internet. So many fanatics. Everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro. I don't need a physicist to tell me what I know. As long as we have power, who cares how long we glow? Everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro. On the radio, so much static on the TV. They're so dramatic on the internet. So many fanatics. If there were a journalist, Nixon would still be president. As long as there is progress, who cares about the consequence? The sun revolves around the earth, the center of the universe. Well, everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro. I don't need a fill in the blank to tell me what I know. Blah, 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 blah. 'Cause everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro. Everyone's an expert, everyone's a pro.
Well, that is very apropos for today's society. I really, really love that.
And
Uh,
our current president, maybe?
yeah, I think we think along the same lines. Um,
I actually heard him say, now this song was written long before he was president,
oh,
but
wow.
I actually heard him say, it's cold today. What is this global warming? I don't believe in that. Do you?
Mixing up
Well,
weather and climate change.
yes. Well, there's a lot of things he doesn't believe in, and
Right.
they are reality. And again, sometimes it takes just a little story song like this for us to open up our minds and say, "Wow, what is really going on? And
Yes.
what can I do to make a change?" And I will tell you one of the things that I've done recently to make a change. My sister-in-law is very much into composting, and she lives in a home where she can compost out in her yard. I live in a condo. I can't. But what I have found is I take all my tea leaves, all my coffee grounds, and I compost those. And every day I have at least a full jar, which initially was going down the sewer. And it's like, I feel so good about this that every little bit counts. So
That's
I'm not an
true.
expert, but I just know what works for me. So
Nice to do what you can.
Drops
absolutely.
in the bucket, enough
Yep,
drops, it fills up.
We
and
have a
there
song called Drop in the Bucket on our second album, which is mostly environmental stuff. So you can check that. It's on our third album, rather, Wake Up.
Yeah.
and where can they find your music?
We have a few things on YouTube. We also have at rusticriders.net.
Okay.
And you can,
That's our website.
that's a website and everything's on there.
So how did you come up with the name Rustic Riders?
Ah, so we were playing with a third person. We were a trio with another guy, and we were starting to play out a lot more. And we were doing a fundraiser for the MS Society. My mom and our daughter have MS. My mom had it, my daughter has it. And so we've gotten very involved in doing fundraisers. They have
Sure.
bike rides. They're not races, they're rides. And so we would do that, and our team name was the Rustic Riders. So we were doing a fundraiser with Skip, and every name we had come up with for a band name was just Skip didn't like. And finally, we're playing this fundraiser, and the host says, Rustic Riders would be a good band name. And Skip says, I like it.
I
So that
love it.
was it. We were like, okay, we're done. But
Well, that is a good story how you came up with your name.
yeah,
And, for those listening, MS touches so many of us. And it's a disease that one day you look and feel fine, and the next day you're down for the count. So
right.
if anybody can be out there and supporting it in any way you can, and that means volunteering your time as well. It's not
Mhm.
always in the dollars that you give.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So
So
what is the third song you're gonna play for us today?
Third song is Lost Dog. So there was our local radio station, the station manager who was there for decades. She just retired, but she had a blues show on every Tuesday afternoon that was great, a really good blues show. And one summer day, there must have been 4 or 5 lost dog announcements. And I thought, oh, there's a blues song in there. And I'm not a blues song or a blues singer, but this song came out.
and it's really about.
And as most blues songs, they're metaphorical. So, I ain't your lost dog. I'm the one who got away. I ain't your lost dog. I ain't no stray. I ain't your lost dog. I'm the one who has her say. You tried to train me, teach me to obey. Sit back, lie down, any time of day. But I won't serve 2 masters. No how, no way. I ain't your lost dog. I'm the one who got away. I ain't your lost dog. I ain't no stray. I ain't your lost dog. I'm the one who has her say. You tried to groom me, put ribbons in my hair, tried to dress me up with fire everywhere. I won't wag my tail or shake my derriere. I ain't your lost dog. I'm the one who got away. I ain't your lost dog. I ain't no stray. I ain't your lost dog. I'm the one who has her say. You fed me well, kibbles, caviar. Took me for rides in your fancy car. But I won't be your lap dog, no matter who you are. I ain't your lost dog. I'm the one who got away. I ain't your lost dog. I ain't no stray. I
I love it, and I love the sound effects as well. Hey, that is terrific.
So usually in performance, we get the whole audience howls at that point.
I get it. So,
So we're curious when it's at home if the animals will start to howl.
I I think if I had a dog, my dog would be howling. You know, your show, I can already tell, has so much excitement, so much energy. Anybody who watches this tomorrow night on YouTube will will be dancing in their seats. Um,
Thank you.
I have to be careful here with all my equipment, otherwise I
Right.
probably would have been up dancing. Um, I can't wait till you can come back to Cafe Lena and play in front of an audience. Um, I'll have to tag your brother, and we'll have to drive up from Cleveland to hear you play. Um, and I'm so glad that you introduced me to
Is he
Michael
great?
McDonald.
Great guy.
And I said, "Why aren't you playing with your sister?" And he goes, "I have my act and she has hers." So I
Our
love,
styles are different. Our
right,
styles are different.
absolutely. But one of the things that I've realized is musicians like yourself and like Michael and so many of the others that I have met, you all work so closely together. Um, and I find that rewarding, especially in today's society. So many
Right. A
people,
lot of mutual support.
absolutely. So if we can learn from you, can you give me an idea of why that works so well in the music community?
There's a group that we belong to, we're both board members of this, called the Picking and Singing Gathering. And in that gathering there's a mix of genres. And uh, when we get together, maybe 150, 200 of us at a campsite, uh, each section of the campsite is cordoned off with various different types of
Not
genres.
formally, just by how it all works out.
Right.
Sure.
And we find ourselves moving from one section to another. So we'll be playing swing music, then we'll be playing blues music, then we'll be doing Quebecois or traditional tunes.
Or
Yeah,
a cappella
or a
sing.
cappella sings.
Oh my goodness, that's my favorite.
And
Although I love it all.
the connection is that sense, that spiritual sense of connection that you have with each other,
When you make music.
right?
Right.
It's like dancing to different tunes, you can still dance.
Right.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I think musicians, because there is that enjoyment of the music, that leads to being willing to support each other, help each other out, and the enjoyment of playing together. It's always more fun together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're
You know,
so, yeah,
when you do a round robin, where we're doing a piece, and then there comes the instrumental section, and somebody's taking the lead, and then the lead gets passed from one person to another person to another. It's very encouraging. It's very supportive. It's wonderful.
and we're seeing a lot of that happening today because of the pandemic on the internet, that musicians are coming together and doing shows together in all different places, just like we are today. There you are
Right.
in New York, I'm here in Ohio, and it can be done. And to me, it is the best of all worlds when we all
Uh-huh.
come together like this.
Right.
Well, I want to wish you the best of luck tomorrow night. Uh,
Thank you. And
you,
thank you for doing what you're doing.
oh,
This is really appreciated.
I love doing these shows. We do so many other shows as well, but I love doing the music aspect. I have to say, my brother being in the music industry most of his life has led me to want to get to know the musicians and why they do what they do, because I don't have that talent. Um, and I sometimes really wish I did, but my vocal cords were cut when I was like 21, and trying to carry a tune, it'll never happen. So
Uh-huh.
um,
You
I,
sing in your head.
I do a lot of that. And my son, who has a singing voice, says to me, "Mom, do not sing because all the cats will run away." So, but that's okay because I enjoy your music. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. And again, that's on Cafe Lena. You can either go to caffelena.org and click on the concert at 8 o'clock, or you can just go to Cafe Lena on YouTube and you'll find it there as well. And we just want to say thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you
This has
so
been
much. It's been
great.
wonderful.
So safe travels to Saratoga Springs and enjoy your couple days down there.
Yes.
Well, our trip is not a couple day trip.
Oh,
Hopefully.
just a one day. Okay.
This is down and back.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, be safe.
Yes,
Yeah.
you too. Stay well. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Bye bye now.
Bye
Bye-bye
bye.
now.